Okay, we'll get started. There's lots to talk about. It actually was a pretty long board meeting last night and lots of other things going on, so want to get started. But it is wonderful to hear everyone socializing and that you all like each other, so that's a really good thing. I really hate standing behind this podium, but I have so many papers today that I feel like I have to, so I apologize for that. So we're going to start out first, as we always do, talking about the board meeting and just kind of doing a debrief on the things we covered. Last night we started the meeting an hour early and we did a strategic planning session with the board. The main point, Kevin walked us through a few things regarding vision and mission and kind of looking at some of those things, and we'll put together a subcommittee and cabinet's going to kind of look at the wording. We talked about that, but really the focus of the time we spent was really to help the board show us what their priorities are and really get to a point where when we start to plan the budget for fiscal year 18 that we have a pretty good idea of what the board's expectations are of us. So I think it was a good hour spent. I think we got to a good place, and we're going to bring forward a few proposals for them to consider in the near future as we start to plan. So senior leadership team is spending next Tuesday starting a budget retreat. We're going to put together some parameters and start to talk about how our budget's going to look going into fiscal year 18. I feel optimistic after our discussion with the board yesterday. We definitely need to find some savings in what we budget for state revenues over what we did this year, but I think we can do it. I think we're well on our way to making some good decisions, and things are okay. Until yesterday, things were looking pretty positive with spring enrollments, but we'll talk about that in a minute, and we're going to regroup on that. So I think going forward, we should keep a positive attitude. We did a lot of hard work last year, and we're gonna continue to do the hard work we do for our students, and we're all going to be good. I've said a couple of times. I said at the full faculty meeting last week or the week before. Was that 2 weeks ago I was there? I'm hoping for no layoffs. We're gonna work really hard to not have to do that. I can't make any promises at this point because we're just starting, but that really is my goal. We did a lot last year, and it was a painful year for a lot of us, and we're still trying to figure a lot of that out. So we're gonna be mindful of our hiring now through the rest of the year. We're not gonna automatically assume that positions are gonna be refilled when they are vacant, because it's much easier for us to not fill vacant positions than to do layoffs in a few months. So, but we also know that there's some positions that we really just can't do without, or there aren't people to pick up the work of the person leaving. So we're just gonna have good conversations before we automatically assume that we're gonna be able to fill positions. And like I said, that's a much easier route to go than to have to talk about layoffs in the future. We also know that this is my philosophy, and I know the board is with me on this one, that we cannot go for years and years and not give people raises. That won't work for any of us, and it doesn't feel good to work harder and harder and not to get any raises. So that will be a consideration going forward, that we're not going to expect that for the next 5 years. People aren't going to get any more money until the state decides to give us more. That's not the philosophy I want to lead under, and like I said, I really feel like the board is with us in that. So we're making progress with KCSS, and I think people will be pleased, and that information should be coming out shortly. We're doing some finishing touches, and so I think people will be pleased with the direction that's going. So that's it about strategic planning. Like I said, there's lots of things we're talking about. We're actually having some conversations and divisions. Have been with some faculty this week talking about some options that we're looking at related to differential tuition, and not saying we're doing anything at this point, but we've got to start the conversations about how would these options look, what impact would it have, and what are the other things we need to keep in mind as we're looking at it. So we'll continue to have those conversations, and again, always feel free to email, call. I know that the culture, that I'm very different than the culture of previous leadership, and nothing against Tom. He was a great man. He did some wonderful things at this college, but I just know, and I think the times have called for it. I am incredibly transparent. In fact, probably to a fault. I probably sometimes say too much. But that's the way. I have no hidden agendas. I have no mission here other than to lead this college in a good direction. So I know that's hard, though. I know it's hard to trust when there's been years of that hasn't been the way it's been between administration and other people who work at the college, but I want to continue, and I know it's going to take time for you to trust me that what I'm saying and what I'm doing is legit and honest, and I'm not trying to like weave my way into things, truly just trying to do, again, what's in the best interest of our students. None of us would be here if it wasn't for our students, and we always just need to remember that. Just did some listening sessions again, love doing those. I get really honest feedback. There was probably about 50 students that came to the 2 sessions, and I'll share some of that information today as well. But that's why we're here, and I shared that with the students. I said, none of it matters if we're not serving you, if we're not doing what you need, and that you're not getting your goals achieved, because that's why we do what we do every day. So I'm going to continue to work to demonstrate that to all of you. There's lots of rumors and things flying around this college right now. I understand that. We're going up to holidays. Holidays is always the craziest time of the year for everybody. I understand that there's just a lot of things happening right now. But I would encourage all of you to just remember that that rumors are just exactly that. And even if it's the purest of information, by the time it gets to 2 or 3 people, even if it's not negative, it's going to be different than the original sender. So just keep that in mind, folks, as we're buzzing about all the things that seem to be buzzing around the college right now. We will come out with information just as soon as we can, and we truly are trying to make decisions on what is in the best interest of our students and what our students are asking us for. So going forward, that's what I'm hoping you'll all keep in mind. So Kevin will get to in a few minutes after I'm done. He did a presentation on our technology plan, and we're excited. Unanimously, the board gave us the green light to go ahead and get our technology at a better place. We've talked about that. We have some upgrades and some enhancements we need to do to make our work more efficient, again, to provide better service to our students. So we're looking forward to getting those things started. Our IT friends are going to be very busy, and we appreciate what they do. But we're moving forward on that, and looking forward to starting to get some of those things accomplished. Let's see, we talked a little bit about what's coming with AQUIP. Mark Lanting, I know Mark's here. Yep, hello Mark. Mark talked a little bit about some of the things he's working on. We have a lot of really big things coming up at our college related to our accreditation. And if we didn't have accreditation, we wouldn't be in business. So this is like key to our success as a college and us continuing to keep our doors open and serve our students. So starting in April, we've already begun the portfolio writing process with some of the outlines and things, but we have to submit it in a year and a half from now, and it takes a long time to do this. It seems like it's a long way away, but it will go fast. There's lots of work to be done. Then they will give us feedback about 12 weeks after that. Then they will come and do a site visit the following spring. And while we're doing all of that, it's time for our ICCB recognition and evaluation process. So there will be a lot of things going on, but I can tell you that there are so many things that we've done in the past 10 months that will really be supportive of our portfolio, because our accreditation portfolio is all about our processes leading to continuous quality improvement. And we have done so many things recently, and a lot of it was forced change because we had budget issues and other things that came up, but it's making us a stronger institution, and it will be really good things that we're looking at when we start to write our portfolio about how we're looking at our processes and we're trying to improve our processes. Even our technology, even getting our technology up to date and those kinds of things, those will all be really helpful as we go into our accreditation. So really looking forward to doing that. I don't enjoy it like Mark enjoys it, and that's really good. We're glad he's here to help us with it. But I know how important it is, and it's a lot of work. So, and I know health, I see Jerry up there, I know how health people are doing it all the time for accreditation right now, so they live it on a regular basis. It's just a lot, but we have to have it. So, gonna go forward with that. Let's see what else is important. I'll just give a little, we talked about the budget. We did a little every month. We do a budget review. Just want to share with you that right now we're about a third of the way through the year, and our expenditures are at about 29% of our annual budget. So we're at about 33.33% of the year, but our spending is only at 29%. So we're in a good place fiscally. You're all doing a really good job of spending what we need to spend, but watching those resources. And we're going to continue to go forward, and we're fiscally at a really good place right now. For fall, our enrollments are still up. We're up 1.1%, so that's a really good thing. For every 1% increase in enrollment, it's about $85,000 in revenue. So that's a considerable amount, and we want to keep that going. That's going to be really important for us. Let's see. There was a couple of employee status reports, and I'm not going to mess it up this month as bad as I messed it up last month. Lucretia Conan. Lucretia's here. Wave to everybody. Lucretia is now the Director of Business and Training Partnerships. Lucretia's been at the college for a couple of years now, about 3 years, and she's done some great work with businesses already from our Job Center or our WorkNet, and some of those are WIOA programs, and already has really good relationships with a number of our businesses. We continue to hear what a great job she does in follow-up, and so we're excited to have her out there working closely with Bill and Joanne and others, just really getting business connections and selling contracts and getting us more revenue dollars. Sonia, is Sonia here? Yes, Sonia, you want to stand up and wave to everybody? Sonia Riesing is Director of Enrollment Services. She's in Student Services, working for Michelle, working closely with the One Stop. I hear things are going very well in the One Stop, or I should say at least your attitudes are going very well in the One Stop, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that, so thank you for your work and continuing. And Sonia, we welcome you to Kishwaukee College. She comes to us, her last stop was Rock Valley, correct? Yep, so thank you. Sean Kesseling, he's probably not here. He's probably helping students. He's a temporary full-time counselor. He's been doing some instruction for us and is helping us out through this advising season in counseling. Oh boy, I'm not going to be able to say this next name. Uraslam. How am I doing, Joanne? Uraslam? Badasso? Oh, great. Okay. A temporary full-time chemistry instructor who has been filling in and will continue then to fill in for the rest of the year. Is that right? Good. Carla Johnson is leaving us. She has accepted a job at Elgin, and she's staying through the end of November, helping us out on a part-time basis. And Beth Young has left, and she's accepted a VP position at Rock Valley College. Carol McDermott has accepted a position as a third shift custodian. And Dan Fritsch is just in a new role as a maintenance helper at the college. So those are the staff changes. Let's see what else. Like I said, I got lots of papers here. All right, so during my president's report at the board meeting last night, we started out talking, first of all, about financial aid. Oh, yes, I'm sorry. You know, that's a really good, I don't think I did either. Samantha, please stand up. It's because her appointment went to the board, thank you, Tammy. Her appointment went to the board last month, so I missed it, and it seems like you've been here forever already because we work on a daily basis. Samantha Daly is our new Executive Director of Human Resources. We're thrilled to have her here, and thank you. Tammy helped get her here. Yes. Jamie, okay, that didn't, okay, welcome, Jamie. You want to stand up and wave to everybody? Welcome to Kishwaukee. Welcome to all of you, and we're glad you're here and look forward to working with you. So thank you. I apologize. Thanks for helping me. We're a team. All right, so the board had requested some more information on financial aid probably about a month or two ago, and so we just shared some information regarding how we're doing. Kishwaukee College's cohort default rate, which is how our students default on their student loans after they leave us when they go into repayment, we're a little bit higher than the national average, but we're working on some strategies to get that rate down. So we're at 23%, the national average is 18.5%, the Illinois average is 17.3%. We had a pretty big jump this year, and sometimes that happens where you have a blip year where something happens with a group of people who've left the college. For the most part, if you look at national research on who defaults on student loans, oftentimes it's people who don't complete. It's people who don't graduate from your programs. So that's why it's so important for so many reasons that we help people, we retain them in our programs, and we help them get through our college. So we're working on some strategies. Cynthia's put some things together. We're doing some face-to-face counseling, started about a year ago, began some face-to-face loan counseling with first-time borrowers. We're doing more communication we get notification when people go delinquent on their lending, so we're starting to send some notices, and we're also going to gather some information on exactly who it is at our college who's defaulting on their loans. Are they part-time, are they full-time, are they graduates, so that we know a little bit better what intervention strategies we can implement in order to reduce how many people are defaulting on their loans. The federal government, the Department of Education, holds us responsible for those people who default, even though we don't have a lot of control over how much we allow people to take out or who we award them to. If they're eligible, they get them, but they do hold us accountable for the repayment. And if it gets to a significant level, then there are other strategies that they will tell us we have to implement. We're not there yet. We're still fine, but we don't want to go any higher. It's just not a good thing for any of us. We also are going to take a look at our financial aid appeals and who gets the appeals. You don't get to appeal until you're at your third semester of college, and it basically means you haven't met satisfactory academic progress before you got there. To meet satisfactory academic progress, you have to complete 2/3 of your classes with a 2.0 GPA or higher. So that means they've been here for 3 semesters now, and they haven't been able to do that before they get to an appeal. So we really need to look at our appeals process and make sure that the people we're awarding the appeals to and giving them more aid are people who truly have the ability to be successful at our college. So just looking again at data and making sure we're making good decisions for our students. We do continue to have about 48% this past year, the previous year, 48% of our student population who were eligible for financial aid were either receiving a Pell, a loan, or a MAP grant. We did have some MAP grants last year. They were awarded in the spring for fall semester, but our percent of MAP grant students in 14-15 was 19.3% of our student body, and last year was down to 11.2%. So you can see we are losing those students. I would guess they're probably going to schools that are awarding the MAP grants up front. They're fronting the MAP grant money and waiting for the state repayment, or the worst scenario is that those students are just choosing not to go to college. So we've got some challenges with our state funding, and MAP grant funding is definitely one of them. So like I said, we talked about that, and I'm glad that the board is always very interested in what's going on with our students. They really like to hear that kind of information. Some staff updates. We participated in STEM Fest at NIU a couple weeks ago, did some very good things there. We had some faculty, lots of faculty who are doing publishing, who are involved in organizations throughout the higher education community. I would suggest that if you want to see the full list, it's a long list this month, which is wonderful. It's really good information. If we have time at the end, I'll go back and read them, but in the interest of time, I'll ask that if you'd like to see who's all listed here, to please go out to the website. The board packet is out there, and you can see in my president's report, this is always the first bullet item in there. I've already talked about enrollments. On October 13th, we held an administrator's breakfast here on campus. We talked about things like dual credit, early graduation. Can we get December graduates maybe to enroll here while they're waiting for their fall semester to start. When they leave early, most of them say they go to work, but can we get them to enroll here? We gave the high school's enrollment data. They're really interested in their remediation rates. How are their students doing when they come here, which I think is great because we continue to work on strategies of how we reduce those remediation rates for our high school partners. We talked about career pathways, how we start the pathway in high school, build it into the college, and then go on to the university. And another thing that I found really interesting is that high schools are moving to online courses. They are starting online for their, specifically seniors, they're starting there, but they're developing online and hybrid courses for high school students. So the fact that our college is looking at how we do this is a really good thing because you know darn well if they get it in high school, they're gonna want it when they come to college. So that was new. That's the first time I had heard that high schools were looking at that. So I think we're right on with our initiative to also increase in that area. GREDCO is the economic development organization in Rochelle. They've invited me to be an ex officio member, which I think is wonderful. There's a lot of development going on in the Rochelle area, so I'm glad that they have included me as a member and that we get to be a part of that. The Foundation Gala, Bill will talk about that in a little bit. It was a pretty awesome event for those of us who were there. And let's see, upcoming meetings, I think I've talked about what we need to talk about with that. And the only other thing that I want to cover is I want to just quickly go over some of the themes that I picked up from those 50 or 60 students that met with me in the 2 sessions over the last couple weeks. So this isn't everything, it's really long, but this is just the themes that I pulled together. First of all, student engagement. Students would like more activities on campus, such as intramurals. They feel for some reason that less is being offered this year. They'd like to see faculty involved in their activities, attending their activities and discussing club and organization involvement opportunities in their classes. They talked about wanting a place for music. They'd like to have a piano available, and they'd like to have an opportunity to participate in a community band. There was some discussion about this is a funny one, well, not funny really, but funny ironic, about air circulation needs in the games room, and so we're on that one. If any of you have been down there, you probably know what I'm talking about. The other area that they talked about a lot, and this is not atypical, this is now the 3rd time I've done student listening sessions in the 10 months I've been here, and this next area I'm going to talk about is always the one that seems to get the most airtime, and it's our counseling services. They want, and it's not our counselors, it's the services they're looking for. I just lumped it under that area. They're looking for more services for undecided students and how they decide on their majors, one-on-one career exploration. They want individual help with connecting to transfer institutions, specifically how their courses will transfer on. They want to be assigned counselors. I've heard that every time I've done a listening session with the students. They want to know who their person is, and when they go back up there, they don't have to start over with a new counselor. They would like some work-based learning opportunities, and they kind of coupled that with the undecided student exploration, such as like informational interviews, internships. Really, they feel like they could make some good career decisions if they had more opportunities to be out in the world of work. And they'd like us to help coordinate that, to figure out how they manage that. They discuss the need for support beyond just academic support. They feel like they need help dealing with personal issues, and one student even said, I know that's not really the college's job, and I said, but wait a minute, yes it is. Because the main reason, if you look at research on retention, the main reason students drop out isn't because of academics. It's because of all the other things that are happening in their lives, whether it's financial, car breaking down, spouse loses a job, a variety of reasons. And so for them to have some support and assistance will help us in the end, and it will help our retention. And I shared that 2 of our counselors that we have up in student services are licensed professional counselors, and that they do have the credentials to provide those services. So we just need to market that. As with so many other things, it really often comes down to communication and how we help students understand that we indeed are here to help them with that. Students want to feel that they have people on campus, and it doesn't matter who, but people on campus who really care about them and care about their success as a student. They did mention TRIO as a best practice, but they also recognize that TRIO has fewer students to work with. TRIO serves 140 students and they have 3 staff. So when you have those kinds of ratios, it's wonderful. But I did share with the students after they were talking, especially about the TRIO, I said, you know, this is one of the areas where the state budget is really crippling us, because you start to go to cutting things that aren't direct, like instruction. You have to have teachers in classes and things like that. So then you start to look at support services, as so many of us know. They were a lot of the areas that were hit in the reduction in force in the spring, and so it makes it really hard because we know students want it and need it, but how do we find the resources to provide it? So we'll continue to have that discussion and continue to look at how we make sure that we provide those services. And in a minute, I'm going to talk about some of the changes that are going on up in counseling. Course offerings, they talked about that. They feel like at times required courses are offered at conflicting times. They are interested in hybrid and online courses, and specifically in one of the sessions they specifically mentioned math, and another session they specifically mentioned business. So those seem to be 2 areas where they would like to see, at least this group of students would like to see more hybrid and online instruction. Kaleidoscope, they'd like to see a 4th semester class. They felt like this was an example that there are opportunities for students, but it's tied to a course. So is it possible for students to be able to be involved in activities without it being tied to a course? So we're already working on that. They talked about wanting culinary courses, and it just so happens that that's something we've been talking about. So we're working diligently on trying to see what we can do to get some culinary courses for students. We talked about how we communicate with them, how we get the messaging out. They like signs on campus. They weren't happy that they can't tape things to the glass anymore, so we're going to figure out how we can get some frames or something hung up, or do we give them easels, or how do we make sure that they can still communicate with each other and that we can communicate with them, things that are happening. They said that they see the TV monitors. They look at those. They think that helps communicate. And then they also talked about text alerts, and students didn't know how they can sign up, so we're going to do a campaign. Talked with Katie recently, and we're going to do a campaign for how we get that word out so that students can sign up for the text alerts. So, you know, they talked a little bit about transition services for first-year students, adjusting to college, making sure they know where to navigate to find things, where the resources are. Those are some things we can include in the College 100 and 101 classes, and maybe in some of our introductory classes we can include a little bit more of that information. So, again, having the ability to really listen to the students, and of course we can't, I'd love to be able to say we can fix it all. We can't fix it all, but if there's a few things that we can do to make it a better place for our students, I think that that's what we're all about. So I'm going to go just a little bit out of order, because as long as I'm here, I'll just, and we just were talking about counseling, I just want to get to sharing with what's going on in counseling. I know it probably seems to some people that we've taken our time on replacing some vacancies in the counseling area that occurred this fall. And part of it is sometimes if you make rush decisions about how you're going to do it, you don't make the best decisions. And so trust me, I'm as impatient as the best of them. But I really felt like this is my world, this is my background. Most of you know, maybe all of you know, that I was a counselor at one point in my life as well, and I couldn't be more committed to a service that we provide our students and counseling. It is foundational to the work that we do here. But I also think we want to do it in a good, structured way that gets to the needs of our students for the services they're asking for. So with that, after many conversations and looking at you know, which direction we want to go, I mentioned earlier we have a temporary person in there right now, Sean. He's on a temporary assignment to kind of help us. Like I said, he was teaching a couple classes here, so it was a natural fit. He understood our college a little bit to come in and help us through registration. We also are fortunate, someone you all know, Sarah Poole, is going to come back and help us out as well, 2 days a week. With registration for a couple of months. She obviously knows the college well also, and we're excited to have her come back to help us. And so that is starting, when is she starting, Michelle? She is starting Monday. No time like the present, so she's starting on Monday. So we're happy about that. We are also posting, I don't know if it's in this email, but we are oh yes, here we are. We are posting the two vacancies we currently have right now, because Carla is still here through the month, but we currently have 2 vacancies, and those are both being posted permanent, full-time positions. But we are looking at assigning students to counselors. We're figuring out how we do that. We're having conversations with the counselors about how we do that. But I think it is something the students have asked me every time I do a listening session with them. And again, if we go back to making decisions on what's in the best interest of the students, I think that this is really, really important to them. When you go to see a counselor, you develop a relationship with them, and they want to know that when they go back, they will have that same relationship with the same person. So we're going to move in that direction. I think we've got it figured out how we're going to do it, and I think this will be good. My goal, and this is why it took us a little bit, because I wanted to do this right away, but we can't do this right away because we don't have the information to do this right away. But the goal eventually is to have counselors in certain career pathways. So if you're a person who comes here as a transfer student and you eventually want to go into engineering or math or something in that career cluster, then there are counselors who specifically know that career cluster. They know the transfer of those programs, of the KISH programs, into other institutions, and they also know, and this is something the students mentioned and I loved it, they'll also know the activities that are associated with those career clusters, and I thought that was a really good idea. So when the students come in and they're talking to the counselors about their career path and how they start at KISH and what courses to take and how they transition on, they can also talk about the activities they can be involved in here in that specific area. So we had to make a change to the application, the college application, so that students can check their intended major. We're going to separate out our CT students to make sure that we're doing a really good job of advising them into the courses they need to take initially as well. We also know that there's a lot of staff who do advising. Some staff have coordinator agreements to do advising, but one of the rumors we're hearing is that we're shuffling advising onto faculty to add to their load, and that's absolutely not true. We are really trying to make it work, bringing in people in student services. It is a partnership, there's no doubt, but we've got to build that partnership. I don't know if I see that partnership as strong between the counselors and the faculty regarding how we go between share student information and work with students, but I think we'll get there. One of the things that people have talked about is some kind of early alert system. Well, if you don't have students assigned to somebody, who would get the alert? So until we get that system in place, it doesn't make sense for us to do an early alert system. But we're going to get there because those are really important, because the sooner we get at students who aren't doing well, or if an instructor sees there's an issue with a student, they're quiet, they think they need somebody to talk to, or at least someone to reach out to them to say, hey, do we need to talk, do you need someone to talk to? The sooner we can do that, the better it's going to be. So we do have big plans for what we want to do down there, and there's been lots of conversations. Michelle's been talking with the counselors down there, and we're going to get to a good place. But I do recognize that this is a huge change, and this is hard, and some people, it's just not working for them, and I get that, and there are other opportunities that people have taken advantage of, but we're going to make it work, and we're going to do what our students are asking us to do. I don't know how as a college we cannot say that that's what we need to do. If the students are saying it, how can we say, well, that's not what we're going to do? We have to do what if it makes sense, if there's no reason to not do it, we're going to listen to what our students are telling us. So I know that that's one of the areas that's a little challenging right now, because it is registration and our enrollments are down. We're down right now for spring. We were up on the first day on our online registrations, which is great, but now as of today, is there a new number for me? Where's Matt? Is there a new number for me or no? Worse? Okay, so then I'm going to go with the number I had. So the number I had was, right now we're down 11%. Okay, so if every 1% is close to $100,000, when we're down 10%, that's like $1 million. That's a lot of us. So we're going to work really hard together as a team and get those enrollments up. And this happens. This is not all that unusual. People like to wait a little bit later, but it is a point in time. So on this date last year, we are down 11% over this date a year ago. So we've got to work together. We're going to rally together as we've done before. You're a great group of people who work well together, and we're going to figure out how to get our students enrolled and encourage. And when you see students, if you see them in the hall, you see them in your classes, ask them if they've gotten enrolled or do they need help getting enrolled. And again, you know, bringing Sarah on board is because we recognize we have an issue. We can reach out to other people who probably can help us do this. And I know others in student services are helping students get enrolled, other than just the counselors. So let's work together. Let's do what we can to serve our students. That's why we're all here, and it's so important. So I think with that, I've covered enough, and I'm going to turn it over. Bill, why don't you do the gala first, and then we'll turn it over to Kevin to do his presentation on technology.
Sure. Okay. From here? Want me to do it right here?
Wherever you want.
Okay, good. Hi. I just very briefly want to tell you that we had our annual dinner, benefit dinner on Saturday night. I think it was very successful. We netted about $50,000. It will probably go up a little bit, a few things yet to be settled. And we had a good time, we had fun. I want to thank many of you for attending and also for contributing to the silent auction items. And I also want to thank, it was a real team effort. Katie Hamill and the marketing and public relations team, I want to thank them in particular. Noka Irvin, is Noka here? Where are you, Noka? There you are, thank you. Noka and I are the 1.5 FTEs in the foundation right now. And a lot of you, we had a planning committee. Where's Tammy Tickler? Tammy's there, and members of the board are on that as well. Is Janet Gallagher here? Terrific flowers that filled the room, every table. And anyway, I hope I'm not missing too many people, but anyway, it was a wonderful time. We don't just raise this money just because we want to pay our salaries and keep the lights on. It's all for our students, and we have some new fundraising priorities that were rolled out in a brochure at the gala, and you're going to see more of that. They're up, I think, the brochure's up now, maybe not. It's going to be up pretty soon on our website, so you can see in a very general way what we're aiming at, and more particulars are going to come your way in the next month. So thanks again.
For those of you who did attend, you probably got to hear a few people sing. You forgot to mention that, Bill. Did you recognize your backup singer?
I did. The evening program began after a song, and we created Jamie Long and Leslie Chacho and I created a trio, right? And there was an old. No. Oh, and Tim Laughlin. Tim's sitting in the back here, provided music for us during the cocktail hour. Thank you very much, Tim. I'm sorry I didn't see you. But no, we're not going to do that, are we? Now, next year we'll do something maybe different. You never know.
Hey, Bill.
Yes.
If we get our enrollments, FTEs, that's an old world, but if we get our enrollments back up to 1% above, would you be willing to sing for us?
Yes.
All right.
But not alone.
I think they'll all sing with you if we get our
Maybe if we got 5%, he could do a dance too. All right. No, thank you. It was a great night, and really it turned out wonderful. Raised $50,000, wonderful amount of money. We got to keep doing stuff like that. Yes. But a real team effort, and it was a lot of fun. That was my only requirement. If it's called a gala, it's got to be fun. So, and it was a lot of fun. Okay, Kevin, it's all yours.
Get this fired up here. There we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you essentially, if you were here last month, I'm going to give you the same presentation that you got last month, except I'm going to update it with two things, some dollar amounts and then the timeline on when we might do these things. And Lori was talking about before about, we have fewer people here, we're all working harder. And so the idea behind what I'm talking to you about here today is to hopefully take the pressure off some of the offices where we can substitute some technology for manual work and help you get to do some other things that maybe you haven't gotten to or have been wanting to get to. And then the other thing is, a lot of these, as we go through them, you'll see that they're all about helping our students have a better experience here. And so those are the kind of the two primary things. So I'll go through this pretty quickly for you, but just to remind you, the three areas that we're focusing on would be, one is to look at whether we need auditing, consulting, or training needs for the modules. And then second, identifying any new Ellucian products that we need to get, or maybe we already have, but we need to implement. And then the third one is kind of this other technology that's needed, software and so forth, and you'll see what that looks like. I've already told you for each of those, and then I'm going to give you the cost, and then I'm going to give you the timeline for it. So let me just get this up here, right here. So these are the areas that we talked about last time. So HR, financial aid, business office. Talk to the people up there. They would really like what's called a full usage audit, where we're talking about multiple days on campus with a consultant watching you work, recommending different things for you. For the curriculum and admissions and registration, currently we're not scheduled to do any consulting needs up there. For communications management, though, we're looking at on-site training specific to each module. Before, we've had training that kind of in general, but this drills it down to the specific module. So the cost that we got for that, and we shared with the board, is that number, a little bit over $72,000. So it's not inexpensive, but if we can make our processes more efficient, if we can get you to spend more time doing what you need to do and less time shuffling paper around, I think it's good for you and it's good for the students. And so the third thing would be the timeline. We would really love to get started on this fiscal year. So the new products, let me just get these up here. Whoops, went too far. That's okay. So we've talked about these before. Student planning is probably the top priority. Financial aid, finance, budgeting, lots of things in the HR area, for everything from web time entry to move away from timesheets to benefit enrollment. And then this parent portal, which I think is an interesting thing, which if you remember allows students to give their students can go in there and give the parents access to financial information, information up in AR&R and so forth. And so it's a way for them to do that. The prices that you see have been updated. We got RJ, I think, did a really nice job working with Ellucian to drive that down by somewhere around $15,000 for that. So that was good. Some of these are free, and you'll see those. And then the timeline is the top two there are things we'd really like to get started on this year. Finance is already done. Actually, that went live October 31st. So students are already using that, and we've gotten really good feedback on that. Self-service for budgeting is coming up next year, and the HR things are coming up next year, and the portal will be available. Ellucian will be releasing that, I think, in the third quarter of 17, which puts it in FY18. And then the other products, let me just get to those. This is the same list that we had last time. So digital imaging, we all know what that is. So this involves expanding it and using it more fully. So we're going to be expanding it to the business office. HR are also going to be using it. Assessment software, we've talked about that for a long time here. We're doing it with a homegrown system now. These are things that we've talked about for a long time. Plagiarism software, Office 365, password recovery software, Robo-Registrar, which is transcripts, appointment software, student discipline, feedback software, so we can move away from the Scantrons, mobile lab, that's a more recent one where we could have a 32 laptop mobile lab to move around for testing, for assignments, so we're not having to book out the big lab every time we need to use that. And then this last one would be, we're starting to explore the possibility of, maybe you've noticed if you have a phone, that the cell signal doesn't follow you wherever you go inside the building. So we're at least exploring the possibility of addressing that. And so the second click here will be the cost. So you can see the cost of all these. There's also some ongoing maintenance that I'll talk about a little bit about. But those are the costs that we shared with the board. We wanted to be upfront with them on the cost and then the ongoing cost. And then the timeline would be here. The first three we would like to do this year. Office 365 next year. The appointment, student discipline, feedback software next year. Mobile lab, if we could do it, that'd be great to do this year. And then that's the price, the initial price we got for just the student center for the cell repeater. So that's kind of where we're still looking for prices for this area campus and other areas. So we shared this with the board, and I summarized it for them this way. If you add up all the $17, you get just over $265, and then an ongoing maintenance beginning in 18 of almost $70,000. And for the $18, a little over $120, with about almost $73,000 in ongoing costs that would be added to the 19 budget. And so we had a discussion on that. They asked a lot of good questions, a lot of hard questions. I think we had a good discussion on it. And in the end, I think Lori alluded to the fact that they've endorsed this, and so I think we're going to be moving ahead with that. So I'll be in touch with the various people, or RJ will, or we'll have to figure out how that's going to work now. But
Kevin?
so yes.
We probably should just mention that this will come out of the difference between the $2 million we got, the $2.8 million we got from the state, and the $2 million.
Sure. So I think many of you know we have received some dollars from the state that were nice to get that we didn't necessarily expect, and so this essentially uses for FY17 would use somewhere around 31% of those dollars dedicated to this. Okay. That's the update on that. We have time for a facilities update real quick. Okay, so I also talked to the board about what's going on with some of the facilities projects, just to update them on where we're at. So there's a handful here that just to talk to you real quick about. The first one will be we're putting air conditioning in the gym. Those units are in. Most of the duct work is done and electrical is done. The second phase of that is essentially replacing the air conditioning in the entire south side of campus. So the chillers from 1972 are going to have to be replaced. And so just yesterday, looking at the weather forecast, we actually shut those down for the season, and so they can start getting in there. We're having a meeting next week about when the demo work would be done on that. They'll work all winter on that and to get us ready for when we need to flip that on in the spring. So that project is on track. I also, last month the board approved some dollars for the parking lot to create a truck driving lot and to bring that on campus. That work has already started, and in fact they're probably going to be done with that depending on what the weather forecast is by next week. So it's going to create a space for us to do truck driving right on campus and have great space right here. We are moving, there's been some construction up in the old Kaleidoscope office. So Kaleidoscope has moved to the assistive, I can always say that, yes, Access, Equity, Diversity, and they love that space down there. So that opened up a couple of offices up in the old space. And so Mark Lanting and Matthew Krull are going to be moving into those tomorrow. So stop by and say hello to them as they move their boxes, or maybe grab one and help them move down there. That would be even better. So that'll help. And then we're still working on the flooding issue that we had in 1300. So just so you know what's happened there. We've had a survey of the areas done. We've had some camera work done on the roof drains. And what we're trying to do now is to develop a plan for what we're going to do. And one of the elements that we need is kind of the entire infrastructure of the way that drainage works on campus. And so We've got engineers and the maintenance staff kind of working on that. Where it's probably leading to is we're going to need to be inspecting the drain tiles. I don't know how many of you know this, but the water that comes off our campus gets drained to a creek several, maybe as much as, I think, like a half a mile to the west. And so there's drainage that leads out there. There could be some issues with that. And so we're looking at all that to develop a plan, and then the cost for all that, because we can't have flooding in the building anymore, obviously. And then the last thing would be we're going to be doing an RFQ, so a request for proposal for a facility condition report. So this brings people in to look at the infrastructure that we have, the masonry, the walls, the roof, the HVAC units, everything, and give us an idea of they grade them. There's a scale that they grade them on. And so we'll have that, and that'll help us as we look to future PHS project, protection, health, safety, and even on the operating side, it'll help us know when we need to replace things. So we just shared that with the board and answered a few of their questions, but I think it's good for you all to know kind of what's going on campus in that regard as well. So I'll turn it back over.
Leadership on that, on all of those areas, Kevin. A couple of things that I thought of as I was sitting there that I just wanted to quickly mention. Graduation. Our first December graduation, it's going fairly well. We are definitely holding it in the gym because as of this morning, we had 60 students registered to participate in graduation, which is great. It's a really good number. We're looking forward to hearing Tim's inaugural faculty farewell speech, and it will be in and out in an hour, one ceremony. So looking forward to having that December graduation, and I'm quite certain those 60 students, and we'll probably have a few more before we're done. We close tomorrow. Right, tomorrow Friday? No, tomorrow's Thursday. Okay, a couple more days. Sorry. It's hard to keep track of days. A couple more days. So we have a few more days for students to register. So we had talked about 75. We probably will be really close to 75, and I'm sure they're all appreciative that a number of you are giving up a Saturday morning in December to help them celebrate graduation. I had also mentioned earlier that when positions are posted that we would talk about it. You will soon see a new position posted for Director of Student Engagement Involvement. You all know that Craig Jackson, our athletic director, had left. You heard me talk about how students want intramurals. So we are hiring a person using student fee dollars, the money that goes to pay for those kinds of things. We are going to hire a position, so that position will be posted. It'll also help a little bit in Allison's world. Students want more engagement and involvement, so that person will also help with that a little bit as well. So that is one position that's being posted. So just to wrap it up on budget and the budget conversation then, so we're probably going to have a little over $500,000 that will go into our reserves. That'll be a really good thing. We need to try to get to about $5 million. We're at 3.6. This will probably put us in the low 4s. So that's good. We're making really good progress on our fund balance for the college. We can just only continue to hope that things like that happen, that we budget for state revenue and it's a little bit higher, so then we have money to do projects and we can build up our reserves that way. So that's the directive the board gave us, that we don't necessarily have to put reserve funding into our budget, but then we just anticipate with state funding that we'll have more that we can put there, but they do want us to work at reducing the amount of state funding in our budget. So we're going to, as I mentioned earlier, figure that out. So lots of things flat. We've got tough work to do, but again, I want to assure you we are at a good place. We are nothing like we were a year ago. And it's almost exactly a year ago on November 11th, which is Friday. Friday is the day I interviewed for this job. So I got to meet a lot of you almost exactly a year ago. So I think I have a few more wrinkles, a few more bags under my eyes, but no, we're doing good, and lots of good things happening. So I'm going to open it up, and you know, I want good news because we do so many good things here, and we need to focus on that. But I also want to say, if you've got questions, we've got about 5 minutes. If anybody has any questions about anything, because there's a lot of stuff swirling right now, please feel free to step up and either ask a question or share some positiveness. Anybody? Dave, woohoo! Good job, Dave. Carrying that IT torch.
Yeah, there we go. A good number of us in IT just finished our move not too long ago. You know, a bunch of us that were in the A1300 wing, you know, had all the flooding, moved up into the old marketing area, and so we're all done moving. We're very appreciative of our new space. We liked it a lot, and I just wanted to thank RJ and Kevin and all the rest of the administration to help make that possible. It's true. I mean, I've been in the same area, kind of old classroom kind of area for almost 11 years. So this is a neat little area we put together. And just wanted to thank Neil for, Neil left already, did a lot of the moving, and some of the other folks in maintenance for making that happen.
Yep, we're all a big team, and congratulations on your new space. I was peeking in the windows the other day, and it does look like you have done a nice job of getting it to a good point for you. Anybody else? That's always good for one or two. Thoughts?
So yeah, I don't like having my back to people, so I'll do the bill thing. I think I shared last month, but if not, Zachary Kacha was invited to join the American Welding Society D9 Sheet Metal Fabricators Standards Council, and so he's agreed to serve on their advisory panel for that. And that was the result of receiving our AWS accreditation. So that's good. We're one of, I think, 4 organizations in the entire state of Illinois that can actually certify welders. So that's great news there. Janet Gallagher, Bill mentioned the floral arrangements at the foundation dinner, but she was also a panel moderator at Fremd High School for a fundraiser for them. And it was on floral design and the arts, and it was a really cool panel that she was part of. Today, we got to give away a car as part of the National Auto Body Council's Recycled Rides program. So State Farm donated a car to us for our collision repair program. A couple of our parts suppliers actually provided the free parts to repair it and refurbish it. And then our criminal justice club students also raised money, as well as our Student Government Association raised money. So we ended up giving the car away to a young mother from Safe Passage with a couple of young kids. So we provided her with a couple of car seats, gas cards, and a new to her 2008 Chevy Impala. And so that was an exciting program. And collision repair also did get word. We were really hoping for the $30,000 grant award, but we were told that we will be getting $1,000 worth of materials that we'd submitted in the grant request. So not 30, but better than owing them 1,000 to get 1,000.
That's right.
So that's it for my list.
Wonderful, thank you. Anybody else? I know there's other people who are doing some pretty cool things here. Al just walked in the doorway. I know he's doing a project with Bill on a boot camp with Northern and Ideal Industries. And so we've got a lot of really great things going on at this college. And I think it's really important to remember that sometimes we can get down on some of the things we hear, and we're thinking, oh, what's going on? And we were talking about Ghostbusters earlier and the crud floating around down below. We're not there, folks. We're good. We're moving forward. We're doing great things. And keep your heads held high that you work at Kishwaukee College, because we do wonderful things for people, and we're going to continue to do it. And as always, my door is open. If you've got any questions, have any suggestions or ideas, please feel free to come see me. And thank you for all you do for our students. Have a great day.